Welcome to the lighter side of tech. I'm your host, Mark Fletcher, and joining me today is my co-host, corporate comedian Greg Schwem. So join us for a little bit of tech and a whole lot of fun. Hey, it's Fletch. Welcome to this brand new episode of a brand new series, The Lighter Side of Tech. And joining me, because there's no way I could pull this off without being the monkey boy to somebody who really has got some comedy skills. And that's somebody I met several years ago, Greg Schwem, who was doing some corporate comedy stuff back at Avaya. Greg, thanks so much for joining me on this.
Oh, Fletch, it is always a pleasure to see you. Yes, I think our relationship, I think it was about 10 years ago that we connected on that series of Avaya dates. And it's always a pleasure to just continue to have a relationship with somebody that you met and that somebody that you really connected with. And that is you.
Yeah, no, and it's you called me when you got some public safety gigs, and I filled you in on a few things, and
Yes, you did.
we've stayed in touch on and off a couple times a year over the past multiple years, and I came up with this, and I think you had reached out to me on something. I said, I am glad you called because I got a great idea.
Uh-huh.
So we're going
Right.
to talk a little bit about the lighter side of tech and comedy in the business environment, and just that in general. So what have you been up to, man? What's been going on lately?
Well, it's great because I think you'll agree with me that live events are pretty much all the way back.
Absolutely.
I have only done one virtual event in 2023. And I think I only did I did a bunch in 2022 because we weren't really out of the woods yet. But it really just being back out there on the road has given me I just feel my batteries are totally recharged, have been, because you realized how much you missed that connection with those audiences and hearing them laugh live as opposed to in boxes on Zoom. And I am just having the time of my life out there, just meeting people and seeing how much they appreciate humor.
But you really haven't been back on the road. You've been back on the water.
Oh, well, yeah, I just got off the water. Yeah, that's one of the things that during the pandemic, during Omicron, I added some cruise ship dates to my corporate dates. And the reason I really did that is if you remember during Omicron, all of a sudden all the corporate dates shut down again.
Yep.
And I thought here we go again. That was what I was thinking. And believe it or not, even though they were getting lambasted in the media unfairly, very unfairly, I thought that the cruise ship industry, they were sailing 50% capacity, but they were still people going out. I thought, I need a stage. I need a stage. And I hooked up with a couple of the cruise lines and got out there. And it really gave me a chance to practice my craft in front of a live audience, which really benefited me, obviously, in terms of writing material, in terms of technique, everything, when the corporate dates, which is what I've been doing for the last 20 some years, when those reopen. So now I've got a really nice mix and I love it.
So did you find that the crowds are different on a cruise ship? Because you can walk into a club and it can be a really dead night or a dead
Yeah.
environment because of the whole COVID thing. You had a few incidents there where I don't think anybody but except a cattle prod would make those people laugh.
Right.
But and now you're on a cruise ship where you've got a little bit of a captive audience.
I
Does that
think
change
so.
the
Yeah.
dynamic?
Yeah. A captive audience on vacation, a
Okay.
captive audience who this is what they love to do. So they're in their element. And that's so refreshing. It's just so refreshing that you have people that say, I'm here to be entertained. This is one of the reasons I take these types of vacations so I can be entertained. And they don't have that now entertain me. They have, I can't wait to see you. And that's really nice. That's been really nice and incredibly, I think the word is therapeutic, really, for me.
Wow. What about the younger party crowd though? Isn't that a little dangerous?
It could be. Obviously in that situation, I have to live with these people. So
Hey, funny boy. Yeah.
yeah, but they know that too. And I will come out on top, trust me, if it comes down to that. But I think people in general, when they're on vacation, they want to have fun, but they also know there's limits uh, to this. So I love to riff with people. I love to ask them, where they're from and uh, what they do or did for a living and so forth, why they're here, what did they buy when they were in the Bahamas or wherever, that kind of thing. So I find the crowds to be great, and again, such a wide range of demographics in one room, and it's been helpful, seriously, because it really it challenges you to come up with topics that will appeal to everybody. That's not easy.
Well, yeah, because that's kind of one of your specialties with the corporate stuff that you
Right.
talk about, and I know I've noticed and I've experienced. You go through, I mean, really extensive research
Yeah.
on the companies that you're working for, and I don't know how many days you spend, but the inside material that you come up with is pretty darn deep, right? It's not just a
It
quick
can be.
Google.
Yeah, it can be. And those topics have changed. I mean, COVID has brought new topics to the forefront that I think need to be addressed in a corporate setting, and also um, letting audiences know you can laugh at that. You can laugh at rejection. I'm writing a lot of material now, and this just seems to have happened the past year, of companies that are constantly wanting your approval for everything. They're wanting your praise. How did we do? Fill out this survey. Take this 2-question poll. Um, I got one from Starbucks a couple of weeks ago, and they said, please tell us how we can improve your recent experience at Starbucks. And I wrote this not to be a jerk, but it's like, if you want to know. So I said, let me tell you about my experience. I walked into Starbucks, I ordered coffee, you poured it, I paid for it, and I left. Would you like to improve that experience? Eliminate the I paid for it part, and I would give you 5 stars. I mean, it's ridiculous. I was in there for 15 seconds. What? Why do you need a blow by blow breakdown of that transaction?
You know what I do in Starbucks just to piss them off? I refuse to order a verde or whatever their
The
size.
vente,
Give
yeah.
me a large. Give me a
Yes,
medium.
just to
And they
watch their
look
head
at me like
explode.
I'm funny. I'm
Yeah,
like, "What? What is that?"
right.
No. But
So
anyway,
anyway, yeah, those kind of topics. I just think COVID brought out different topics that people need to laugh about.
yeah.
Jumping around with jobs, and the way that we get jobs now, the way we apply, and the and what's expected of people, and what companies are looking for. I think there's a lot of humor in, these are the things that our company offers, the dog washing station, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that because the workforce changed during COVID. It did. There's no doubt about it. The way we work, what we think is important in our work lives, that all changed. And all of that feeds into um, my act.
Did you work on I don't want this to say I had the question in my head and then I played it and it didn't come out kind of right. But did you did you think an opportunity to work on new material because during the COVID time? I
It
mean, did
was
that
I was
inspire?
always thinking of new material, but it's very difficult, because what drives me and what really makes me write is being around other people. I have to have interaction. I cannot sit at my laptop and say, I am going to be funny for an hour. Some guys and girls can do that. I need to be able to see things. I need that kind of I need kind of a canvas in front of me. And I
Yeah,
didn't
you're
have that.
you're a feedback kind of guy,
I
right?
am, and I think comedy in general is feedback. I mean, there's lots of speakers out there who would give the same presentation, and it doesn't matter if anybody responds or not. It's the same presentation. I
Yeah,
can't do that. Um,
yeah.
but on that note, Fletch, it was interesting to go back to doing live events. I almost feel like audiences, and I think this is true in any form of entertainment, have had to be retrained a little bit as to how to embrace, whether it's a motivational message, whether it's anything that's done live. Because when you think about it, for 2 years, our sole form of entertainment was this,
Yep.
or Netflix. Okay. So when this is your form of entertainment, you're in charge of the entertainment process. You sit there and you go, not funny, swipe left, scroll up, that kind of thing, change the channel, that kind of thing. And I almost felt like when I started back going to do just live audiences, no matter what the situation was, that it was almost like you wanted to say to them, patience. Okay. It might not be funny in the first 5 seconds, but you can't swipe right on me.
Yeah.
It will come to you. It will come to you. This is what I do for a living. Give me a chance. And I think that's over now, but it took a while.
That has to be a huge impact on the way you approach your job.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I think I think audiences now, we always want instant gratification. We do. And technology has made us want instant gratification. And because we know there's a lot of choices out there if we
Right.
don't get it. And I think that has played into the way that we decide whether we like a form of entertainment, whether it's a movie, whether it's a play, whether it's a dramatic poetry, anything, comedy. I think we have much less time to make an impact on an audience, and that's been a challenge.
So when you dealt with the audience, doing this,
Yeah.
what you can't even tell if they're smiling or not.
Well, I know. I mean, and everybody looks alike. So I mean, I would like call on people in the audience. I'm like, did I call on this person or not? It's the one with the mask. I got used to that. I mean, I did when I first went back to doing live events. I would look out and everybody was in a mask, seated 2 seats apart from one another. But you play with the hand you're dealt. And obviously I didn't like it the first time. And the second time I was like, all right, I've done this before. I can do it. And by the third time, it's like, well, this is the norm.
Mhm.
So do it because you have an opportunity to do this. So quit bitching about what isn't there and focus on what is there. And what is there is a live audience.
Let me ask you something. If this had all happened 10 years ago, when technology was what it was 10 years ago, and we didn't have the high-speed internet like we
Yeah.
have, and the Zooms and the Teams and the StreamYards, which is what we're using today.
Right.
I'm not sponsored by the people at StreamYard, but I would welcome.
I was going to say it's nice to throw in a very ad-libbed plug.
But a lot. I mean, and you and I both use this platform, and it's a very functional platform, and we use it because it does what it needs to do. But this stuff wasn't even on the drawing board 10 years ago.
No.
How would that have been changed everything, do you think?
Yeah, I think that people would have sought out a chance to be entertained live because they didn't have an alternative. This was the alternative. And it not only became the alternative, it became we should just do this all the time.
Right.
And I think if the pandemic had lasted any longer, gosh, I mean, I think there was a moment where you would just be like, the longer you're away from what used to be, the more you forget about it. And luckily that we got out of it before that happened.
Yeah. Well, I think it started to change and have a solidifying impact. But I agree. I think we caught it just in the nick of time. Because a lot of people were going, I don't even want to go back in the office anymore.
Right.
And now companies are really weighing that decision.
I think a lot are pushing back. And I mean, I have my opinions about it, and I won't say what they are, because
What are your opinions, Greg?
okay, I'll tell you my opinion. I'm a big believer in face-to-face. But again, that's kind of a bias. Look at what I do for a living. We just talked about that. And we talked about how gratifying it is for me to be, to have a live audience and to get that feedback. But I think now that I see people back at these live meetings, you're really seeing that even maybe some of them are going back to the office kicking and screaming. Once they're there, it ain't that bad.
Right. Right. I believe I'm kind of in the middle. I think you need to have the option to go where you need to go, where you're going to get the most work done. I get a tremendous amount of work done out of my home office, but
Mhm.
I've been working from home since, I don't know, 2001,
Yeah, ditto.
right?
Exactly. I mean, I've been a home office worker since I decided to uh, abandon my career as a journalist and do stand up. So I've been a virtual worker since 1990.
Well, when doing the news and doing weather and comedy, it's all the same, isn't
Pretty much, yeah.
it?
It's yeah, yeah.
So, well, that's really great. So,
Mhm.
what have you learned during the pandemic? I mean, what has it taught you?
Well, it is interesting. I think the pandemic really, as somebody who provides humor for the corporate world primarily, but in general, I do think the pandemic changed a little bit our perceptions of what is and isn't funny. And it also gave people, again, because we were all being entertained by ourselves, we formed our own opinions on things. And then
Mhm.
we get into chat rooms and we found more people that shared our opinion. And I think that humor is become a very hot button topic in in the corporate world in terms of what's offensive, what's funny to this generation, what's funny to that generation, etc. And the more I saw that, and the longer the pandemic went on, I thought I need to address this. I could address it with a couple of jokes, or I could write an entirely new keynote about it, which is what I chose to do. So what I chose to do was write a keynote, and I titled it "If Laughter is Healthy, Why Aren't We All Okay?" And the whole idea is the big. You think about what the big words in corporate America are now. These are words that you didn't hear before the pandemic, maybe not as much. Uh, Mental health, wellness, employee retention, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those all just kind of appeared. And the whole idea is that, we want to retain the best employees, but they need to feel like this is the job they want. And in some cases, it was like, I think, so therefore, we have to be careful about laughing in the corporate environment or saying something because somebody from some different age group or demographic might not like it. And while I think that's a great discussion to have, I also think it can be very I think it can be a real negative because I've always said if you want to have the best employees and you want to keep those employees, they have to you have to offer a fun work environment for them. If you went in for a new job and they said, by the way, laughter's not allowed in here, how long you gonna stay in that job? A couple minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
So I came up with this concept and I delivered this presentation. The whole idea is that we will discuss those topics: wellness, DEI, employee retention. But why can't a comedian do that? Why can't you have a little bit of fun while you're discussing it? And really, I give you a different side because I have been on the receiving end of that. I have been on the receiving end of people who have just gotten in my face and said, not funny, stupid, offensive. Who are you? Bullying, this kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So, people always think somebody like me is, you're the one bullying. Not necessarily. I have been on that end. But what I try to do in this presentation is to show um, audiences that the positive benefits of humor far outweigh the negative ramifications of it. And to sweep humor under the rug and say it's too much of a hot button topic, we should just go at it is, I think is very detrimental to a company. And I believe that a lot of that can be, I think if employees just communicated with one another, just sat down and talked about what they think is funny, why they think something wasn't funny, I think it's a real chance to connect and learn about your fellow worker and to come to an understanding. And I think we tend to not do that anymore. And we need to do that, especially now that we're returning to work. I mean, you're going to see people who have a different opinion or a
Yep.
viewpoint of you. So you can either run away from them or go to HR and say, I can't work with this person because he has a poster of a certain comedian in his cubicle and I find that comedian offensive. Or you can talk about it. And it's amazing to me. I think you can come to a real understanding. And I think that's what's needed. So that's really the goal of my presentation. It's not to say, why don't you think Dave Chappelle's funny? I think he's hilarious. It's not, that's not the point. The point is just to kind of give examples, show companies that have benefited from humor, who have actually come back from the depths of extinction by being willing to use humor, whether it's in a self-deprecating way or just something that hits people's funny bones. I mean, what the Super Bowl is coming up. What does everybody talk about after the Super Bowl? They talk about the funniest commercials.
Right.
The ones that made them laugh the hardest are the ones that are going to be talked about on Monday morning. So why wouldn't you embrace humor in your work world? Is it a controversial topic? Absolutely. But again, I relish the challenge of letting people know that there's no right answer to the questions, what's funny and what's offensive.
Personally, I believe self-deprecation is the funniest humor
Yes.
that
Yeah.
you can witness. And it's interesting, the problems that you mentioned in corporate America. As you know, I deal with the public safety industry. Those same issues, exactly identical, exist. And there are some 911 centers that are down 60% in their staffing levels
Right.
because of those specific topics.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously 911 call center operators aren't supposed to be wacky,
Yeah.
but they're not. But yes, you're right. It's a high stress job, obviously.
Yeah.
And
911, what's your emergency?
right.
That's
Waka waka.
waka, waka.
But yeah, I get it. I get it. And humor is a great stress reliever. And I think it needs to be seen that way. And that's where I talk about the positive benefits versus the negative ramifications of it.
Well,
And
one of the things that public safety does is to deal with that is the dark humor. And I mean dark,
oh
dark
yes,
humor.
yeah,
And I'm sure you see that in the medical field and probably a lot of the other high stress,
police,
unseen police
yeah.
kind of back end stuff you don't see.
Yeah,
Um,
cops have. When I was a journalist and I used to cover the cop beat, cops have the sickest senses of humor. That I mean, just ridiculously sick. But as one of them pointed out, it is somewhat of a stress reliever and a
totally
defense
therapeutic.
mechanism
Yeah,
for what they see. And I saw things that I wouldn't wish on anybody when I was covering the police beat. And they're not funny, but I I I saw it from another side.
yep, absolutely. And a lot of people don't understand that,
Yeah.
and that's fine. You've never done that job. I wouldn't expect you to understand it. If you did, it would almost invalidate the dark humor.
Yes. Agreed.
So, but
Mhm.
well, that's fantastic, Greg. I'm really excited about what you've done to get through the pandemic
Yeah.
and where you're going. I'm so glad you joined me on here. Hopefully we're gonna pull out a few of those guests and talk to them. And
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the things that's happening in the lighter side of tech. I mean, with things with AI and all of that that's starting, which are things not only do I want to joke about, but I want to learn about them first. And then let me learn about them, and then I can see if there's any humor in there, and I'm sure there is.
sure, that's
But
why I'm excited because I know you do your research. So
yeah,
I'm getting you to do my job for me on that.
that's fine. That's fine.
I'm doing all the production, so
Happy to do it.
Well, listen, thanks very much. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. Uh,
Thanks, Fletch.
Glad to see you out in the cruises. I mean, I'm looking at your toes in the sand on some beach in Cabo. What the hell is
Yeah. Yeah, someone's gotta do it.
this? Unbelievable, my friend. Well, listen, hope everything is well. Look forward to talk to you next time. We'll be in touch.
My pleasure. Thank you, Fletch.
Thanks for joining me on the lighter side of tech.
Okay.
Have a good one.